Hi there, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Basik from the Center for Character and Leadership Development. Welcome to your role as a facilitator in our Character and Leadership Development programs. Now, depending on the program you volunteered for, you'll probably also receive some other helpful information like an agenda for the day, or on occasion you'll get some facilitation questions or surveys or things like that that just might help you prepare for the conversations you're going to guide the cadets through in different blocks of the program. But let me start here. Thank you for your involvement in this program. The ultimate goal of all our programs is for cadets to more clearly understand their responsibility as a leader of character. And by that we mean that they should be graduates who live honorably and just consistently practice certain virtues that align with our core values. That they're leaders of character who lift others to their best possible selves. And that they elevate performance in their team or organization toward a common and noble purpose. So that's, when we say leader of character, that's what we mean. And you help us develop that. So the cadets you'll be leading and working with may be in formal leadership roles or not at this time. Either way, they have the chance to lead where they are and make an impact. So just if they don't have a formal role, that's okay. Make sure they identify that leadership can happen anywhere in their lives. Your role at your tables or out in the field will typically be with about 6 to 8 cadets. And your role will be to dive into the small group conversations that we tee up prior to your session or at the front of the room before we throw things over to the tables. Here's the key for the day for you. The facilitator's touch is light. Your role is not to be an expert with all the answers that the cadets just turn to. We hope, honestly, to hear their voices more than the facilitators. Think of yourself more as a traffic cop. If somebody's going long in their explanation or their input, you just gently help them wrap up their thoughts and pull in somebody else. When multiple people want to talk, again, you're a traffic cop. You guide certain ones in one at a time. Bring in the people that are quiet. Try and quiet down the ones who tend to be hogging the floor. You ask questions that require more than just yes or no responses. Challenge them to offer comments beyond just the obvious answer. Why do you think that? Why do you use that word? How do we get there? How do we do that? Okay, a lot further depth with beyond yes or no questions. Bottom line is you get them to be real. We try and keep the discussion out of the weeds and just create a fun, open dynamic at the tables or out in the field that focus on their personal developmental journey. Now, in order to do that, you may have to be a little bit vulnerable yourself. If you role model that early on, that transparency, show them that you're on this character and leadership journey too, warts and all. Share an insight that's a little uncomfortable and admit that maybe you don't know something or that you're struggling to get it right too. They'll be more likely to join you there and to get a little transparent themselves. The day is going to be typically a series of front of the room content delivered by the lead facilitator, then kicked over to you at the table or your small group for either discussions or activities. When you've got them, here are just some facilitation techniques that might help, okay? First idea is related to directed questions for quiet people, or maybe just to get the ball rolling, such as from the front of the room, they've kicked it over to our table. Okay, I turn to my cadets. All right, before we dive in, let's make sure we know what question they've just asked us to wrestle with. So how about Cadet Jones? What is it we're supposed to do? Let's get clear there. That brings Cadet Jones in specifically, and you don't have to wait for that awkward silence where nobody wants to be the first one to talk. Another example might be, hey, we're doing a brainstorming list. I'll be the scribe. I'll write things down. How about, Stevens, we haven't heard from you recently. What do you think? You give us the first thought on this one. And then, of course, especially if Stevens is a quiet one, hey, great one, great input. Who else? Let's validate contribution and invite them in. Another example for facilitation techniques is just open-ended questions. Like I said, no yes, no questions. Instead, it might sound like, hey, we're talking about why you're here. Let's be honest. Instead of asking, did anyone come here for a free education? Yes, no. Ask, honestly, folks, why did you come here? Pause. They can go a lot of different directions there beyond yes, no. Another example might be, sure, it's easy to say what you just said as a response, but in real life, it's harder than that. And why is that? Okay, why doesn't it play out as simply as just a superficial answer at the table? Another technique might be to focus on the words they've used. You use the word legacy a lot. I've heard you guys around the table say that a few times. What is it about that that matters to you? Again, wide open. Another technique is you might stir the pot. If everybody's in kind of violent agreement, you can offer something up. Maybe you don't even agree with it. For example, hey, let's be honest. There might be something to the ideas that less diversity decreases conflict. Okay, you might not agree with that, but let's see where that goes. Or what are the arguments from the people who don't think we should do what you all agree with? What are they saying? Give them a voice. Another technique might be to politely cut off the constant talker, the person who just is the first one to volunteer and is always saying something. Now, please make sure you're not that person. But a technique might be, hey, I know you've got a great insight on this, but let's start with somebody at this side of the table, okay? Or apologetically, let me hit a pause here. I'm going to have to play the traffic cop. It sounds like you're arguing for more cadet control. So let me just sum that up. Great input, but let's invite in someone else on this question. Again, your role is the traffic cop. What about handling disrespect? Here's what that might sound like. If somebody uses language or steps on or insults someone else at the table, there's nothing wrong, and it's totally appropriate for you to just say, all right, I'm going to hit the pause button for a second. I love that we're all emotionally invested in this conversation, but we're going to keep this in bounds. Okay, we can offer our thoughts without disrespecting somebody or using language like that, and I promise I won't do it. I need you all to step up and have these discussions maturely. Okay, this is all great stuff, but we're going to do this right. Fair enough? Okay, pause button off. Back to you, Mr. Keller. What you were arguing for, go ahead and continue. Okay, you own that sort of conversation. Now, if it's very egregious, during a break, you might want to calmly make sure they understand why this was out of bounds so that you don't have to battle this throughout the day. Okay, you get this. There are a million techniques for facilitators, but the bottom line is you're the one who keeps the ball in play, but they do the kicking. And help us lead them to real conversations that highlight the insights they can use in their life. Okay? Help us manage our time. Let the lead facilitator know if you just need a few more minutes to let this cadet finish up with something pretty powerful, or if we're starting to beat the horse and we're ready to move on, just give the folks at the front of the room a little heads up on that. That can be helpful. So the bottom line is you're a role model for this very personal journey of development. If you share a story, make it one that demonstrates it's safe for them to share theirs. If you acknowledge that you struggle with things, they may do the same. If you get a little emotional about your personal commitments, they will too. That's all good. We couldn't do this program without you. Okay, period. Thank you. So thank you for caring about the Academy. Thank you for caring about these cadets. We welcome any questions or feedback you have before or after these programs, but we appreciate sincerely your involvement, and we hope you have a great time with your cadets.